KUAM News Headlines is presented by Calvo's Insurance, serving Guam for 80 years. Also brought to you by Matson and the Adahi Etano program. Cars Plus, reminding you to put your phone down while driving. Distractions won't get you there. Heads up, Guam. IP&E, fueling excellence. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And steaks, ribs, seafood, and our famous Fresh Garden Bar. Ruby Tuesday. Good times you can taste.
Coming up on Prime Time, trial continues for the pair of brothers accused in the machete attack in Mangilao. Adriana Cotero has the very latest from court. Plus, with 4 days away from the deadline, lawmakers continue their 2020 budget talks. Arnesta Lecanto has that story. And a stateside group has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, alleging the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service failed to designate critical habitats for species of plants and species of animals in Micronesia.
Avade, good evening, Guam. I'm Chris Barnett, and our top story. Testimonies are ongoing from witnesses and victims in the Mangilao machete attack trial. It's day 3 of that trial for the young defendants, Emmanuel Resalap and Jordan Ratchalap, who are facing charges of attempted murder, aggravated assault, criminal mischief, terrorizing, and family violence. Our very own Adriana Cotero was at the courthouse today and files this report.
911, where's the emergency? Hello, 911.
I need some police, please.
Okay, where are you at?
Let me know. Next door.
What's going on? Why do you need an ambulance?
Because my son is stuck.
Lily Jane Resalap places this call on June 4th when she discovers her son, Urson Resalap, has been cut and is bleeding from a wound on his side after being struck by Emmanuel Resalap with the machete.
Please. I need you to control the bleeding, okay?
Yes, please. I need police out
Yes, the police is on their way already.
In the 911 recording played in court today, Lily was yelling and screaming in terror. Assistant Attorney General Sean Brown called her to the witness stand. She told the court she was holding her injured son and yelled at Jordan Ratchalap, who then took the machete and hit a car driving by. But all that was running through her mind,
my son is not going to be alive.
Emmanuel and Jordan are the 2 young men accused for the attack. It was 2 months ago when these brothers and their first cousin, the victim, Urson Resalap, were drinking and wrestling at the beach behind the UOG Marine Lab. They made their way back to a residence where the altercation occurred. Urson testified that he threw the first punch.
I hit him first.
Okay, and then what happened?
So he got mad and then we started going at it.
Going at it outside, where his sister, Mary Jane Resalap, witnessed from an above balcony. In surveillance video played in court today, she identified individuals in the video recorded from Best Store. During cross-examination by Emmanuel's attorney, Samuel Tecker, Mary Jane confirms that Urson is the heaviest from all the young men.
When you were watching this all happen, do you think that Manny was trying to kill Urson?
No, sir.
I have no further question.
Mary Jane tells the court that Emmanuel tried to protect himself, but then he hit Urson. The first responder at the scene, Officer Patrick Corpus, received the radio dispatch in his patrol vehicle. Corpus said he saw the gash, describing it as 6 to 8 inches in length and 2 to 3 inches in depth, a deep cut that Urson said was very painful, and left him in Guam Memorial Hospital for nearly 3 days.
I feel like I was gonna die.
Okay, what'd you do next?
I took my shirt and I put pressure on it.
Officer Corpus arrested Emmanuel, stating the defendant, quote, kind of turned himself in, end quote.
Were you arrested him?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you arrest him in person?
I arrested him later at the Ganya precinct.
Did you notice if he had any blood on his hands?
The thing I noticed is that he had a contusion on his forehead. That's the only thing I noticed.
Yesterday, in their opening statements, the defense counsel, Samuel Tecker and Gloria Rudolph, told the jury that they will argue self-defense and state that amongst all the evidence, the government has to prove the charges beyond reasonable doubt. The government also asked for the jury to consider 4 factors while listening to the testimonies. What role does alcohol play? Was it self-defense? What was the motivation? And what was the vantage point? Trial continues to tomorrow morning. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Adriana Cotero.
In other news, a 2015 case unsealed in the District Court of Guam today reveals more allegations of corruption at the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority. Now, the past 24
The whistleblower complaint was filed by Ray Tapasnia pursuant to the Federal False Claims Act. Tapasnia alleges that while he was serving as Deputy Executive Director and later Executive Director of the agency, he uncovered violations of the federal Section 8 low-income housing program. Specifically, he alleges that for more than 1 year, beginning in 2011, that then Gura legal counsel Mark Smith and Gura conflicts counsels Cesar Cabot and Roland Manzanonia were receiving payments as landlords under the Section 8 program against federal regulations. Additionally, Tapasnia alleges that secret meetings were held by the Gura board to conspire to illegally award a $52 million contract to 2 companies to build low-income housing in exchange for low-income housing tax credits. After bringing the allegations forward to HUD, the AG's office, Gura's executive management, and the governor's office, Tapasnia was terminated from the agency. On August 22nd of this year, the U.S. Attorney's Office provided notice to the court that it will partially intervene in the case. Court documents stating it will only intervene in the allegations against Smith, but not against Attorneys Cabot, Manzanonia, and the allegations in the low-income housing tax credit section of the complaint. The court has given the U.S. Attorney's Office until September 23rd to file its complaint to intervene. Tapasnia is now back as Gura's executive director after being rehired by the new administration. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Sabrina Salas, Matsunani.
In the past 24 hours, more than 30 motions have been filed in the district court related to proposed confidential settlements that have been reached in the church child sex abuse scandal involving the Boy Scouts of America. Now, according to a joint motion for a determination of good faith settlement and dismissal, they're asking the court to make a finding that the settlement between the parties satisfies the good faith provisions in law. A majority of the cases involve alleged sexual abuse perpetrated by Father Louis Brilliard, who was also a scoutmaster. The priest, who is now deceased, admitted to sexually abusing boys. In other news, Take Care Insurance has filed a temporary restraining order to block the administration department from considering any GovGuam health insurance contracts until the company's protest is resolved. A Superior Court motion states that timelines are the sole issue and that the OPA never addressed any of the merits of Take Care's protest. Instead, it incorrectly concluded that its objection was untimely. The health insurer says it first learned that it was being wrongfully disqualified as a bidder on May 1st, and so its May 3rd protest was timely. The company adds that GovGuam employees and dependents will not be harmed because there is rollover coverage pending the resolution of the protest. In other news, a stateside-based environmental group plans to sue the Trump administration for its failure to designate critical habitats for endangered species in Micronesia. And they say the military buildup and other factors are to blame. Here's more. The Center for Biological Diversity has filed its 60-day notice to sue the Trump administration for violations of the Endangered Species Act. The notice is a federal requirement for suing, and the group says it'll file suit on the 61st day, alleging the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service failed to designate critical habitats for 14 species of plants and 9 species of animals in Micronesia. Ryan Shannon is the staff attorney for the Center for Biological Diversity, and he tells KUAM News the military buildup has and will continue to have serious repercussions on already endangered species.
Military training and activities dating as far back as World War II have had significant impacts on all of these species, and the proposed military relocation plans are only going to intensify those impacts.
The planned suit lists 23 different species affected by the Fed's failure to designate critical habitats, including the sheath-tailed bat, Mariana's skink, Mariana's 8-spot butterfly, and 4 separate species of endangered snails. Guam's Attorney General has jumped on 2 different multi-district lawsuits recently, and Shannon says he'd more than welcome any support from the island's AG.
We'd be happy to chat with him about. Again, in this case, the law is so clear that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service violated the Endangered Species Act that there's not a lot of nuance to discuss. It's the critical habitats were due on October 1st, 2016. That date is come and gone, and they still haven't designated critical habitat, and that's pretty much all there is to it.
Shannon telling KUAM the October 1st, 26 deadline stems from the federal government's legal requirement to designate a habitat for endangered or threatened species at the same time it designates a species as threatened or endangered. We asked Shannon if the feds could argue that creating critical habitats for these species was not feasible because in Guam's case, those habitats are within firing range of military buildup projects.
It's not only feasible, it's legally required. And the fact that they have proposed military training activities taking place doesn't alleviate their duty under Section 7 of the ESA to both ensure that those actions don't jeopardize the continued existence of these listed species, but also once critical habitat is designated, ensure that their actions don't destroy or adversely modify that critical habitat designation.
Shannon says the Endangered Species Act trumps any federal agency's other duties, meaning Congress intended for the protection of endangered species to be, quote, first and foremost. He says a settlement or a successful suit could force the feds to, quote, restructure, reorganize, or potentially stop a federal action that adversely affects listed species, or at the very least, force the feds to come up with reasonably prudent alternatives.
There's a little bit of crystal ball staring to know exactly what would happen, but what would happen almost certainly is that they would have to undertake some kind of mitigation efforts for the military training exercises to ensure that they don't imperil these endangered species.
Shannon adds that he doesn't believe Guam's political status lessens the strength of the Endangered Species Act or lets the feds off the hook for not obeying the law. Meanwhile, AG's office spokeswoman Carlina Charfres says the AG's office will be monitoring the potential lawsuit. How to calculate the impact of compact migration? Well, officials from the federal government's General Accountability Office are here at the request of Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski to gather firsthand information. Now, Murkowski, who chairs the Natural Resources Committee, traveled to Guam earlier this year and met again with Governor Lulian Guerrero in Washington, who sought her help on the issue. The GAO team has met with a host of government agencies, civic organizations, and FSM community officials. Their three-day visit concludes tomorrow. Guam has been seeking more than $140 million a year in compact impact reimbursements, but the U.S. government has disputed Guam's calculation of the costs and this year awarded just a little over $17 million. Public health reports that there are now 2 confirmed cases of dengue fever on Guam. Both are imported cases, meaning they were contracted off-island. The additional confirmed case is from an individual from Yap State. The previous case reported in April. There are currently dengue fever outbreaks in the Philippines and in Palau. According to Public Health, Guam could see additional suspected and confirmed cases this year from immigrants, migrants, and residents who travel back and forth from the Philippines and the island states in Micronesia, such as the FSM, Palau, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands. Well, stick around for more news here on Primetime. You're watching KUAM.
Get up-to-the-minute news, plus access to alerts, streaming radio, promotions, and more on your mobile device by downloading the KUAM News mobile app, available at the App Store now.
Half the day, I'm in the club.
Half a day, welcome to Two Lovers Point.
Half a day, I'm in the club.
Matson is in this community. We've been in this community for decades. We're gonna be in this community for decades to come. Things will get busy, things will get quiet, but we're gonna be here. We're your hometown carrier. And that matters to us.
Reliability is the core of our business. We take pride in ensuring that we arrive in Guam on time as scheduled.
It's our local employees who understand the market, who understand the business, and provide that hard work for you each and every day.
When we hold ourselves to high standards, our customers also hold us to high standards. We establish good business relationships that turn into friendships. That's why it's so important to be here and be trusted by your customers. We want you to trust Matson like your friend, like your family.
The summer of Jeep, Compass, Cherokee, Wrangler, Cars Plus in Mighty. Your new adventure starts now. Buy the 2019 Motor Trend SUV of the year and get a new Jeep Wrangler Sport for $268 per paycheck. Or get a new Jeep Compass Sport, only $167 per paycheck. Let them hear you coming in the new 2019 Jeep Cherokee. Buy for $205 per paycheck. And get financing as low as 1.99% on all Jeep models. Come see why you'll be kicking it at Cars Plus in Mighty. Driven by you.
It's a special delivery to your inbox every week with your KUAM News Roundup, program advisories, and promotions. Sign up for the weekly KUAM Digital Digest today on KUAM.com.
Welcome back. The government's largest and most expensive agency took center stage as the 2020 budget talks continue this morning. The Education Department says, like the rest of GovGuam, it's doing its best in the face of dwindling finances. But if senators want them to fix rapidly deteriorating school facilities, they'll need to come up with a lot more money. Nestor Lecanto has more in this report.
GDOE Superintendent John Fernandez says for the past 2 years, they've managed to squeeze by through a hiring freeze, renegotiating critical contracts, and foregoing certain reclassifications, among other things.
We've cut down by about, I would say, over $19 million to get to this point where we are right now. That's about an 8% reduction in our 2018 appropriation. And so part of the cost cutting and cost reduction comes from the actions of the government of this legislature to reduce our funding level.
And that also leaves little to no money for repair and maintenance of many aging schools. Fernandez says they were lucky to get some $5 million in federal funding for infrastructure needs, but that's not nearly enough.
It was basically documented at $90 million in deferred maintenance. A lot of that is unable to be met without a source of funding. And so I know for the past couple of years I've been asking our elected officials to help us figure out where we can get a dedicated source of funding for facilities that we can leverage to address some of these major issues.
He says they've got suggestions such as borrowing money and spreading the cost over the life of the capital improvement.
I don't want to deny the truth of the matter. We're not providing enough funding for the facilities. There are ideas and ways to do it, and I would love to engage in that conversation.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Legislative session continues tomorrow. The Guam Congress, all senators have until the end of the week to pass a budget. Well, the 45-day comment period is open for 2 Marine Corps relocation project programmatic agreement memos. Naval Facilities Guam is encouraging the public to review those memos online and comment before the October 9th, 2019 deadline. The memos provide cultural and natural resources info on the projects, one which deals with the Anderson South Urban Combat Training Complex, operation activities on the Andy South installation. Now, according to NAVFAC, archaeological sites will be preserved in place or data recovered as determined by Navy archaeologists. The other addresses the well field on Anderson, which proposes construction of water wells to meet future needs. Archaeological monitoring of ground disturbance will be contracted, according to NAVFAC. The memos and common links are available on the NAVFAC Pacific Cultural Information webpage. We have all the links conveniently located on KUAM.com as well. Well, the Leon Guerrero administration says it's managed to avert another major snag in the foreign worker program, as high-level officials in the Philippine government have agreed to Guam's recommended fix that will allow the flow of Filipino skilled workers to continue. In this report, there's more with Nestor Lecanto.
Labor Director David De La Sola says local contractors were caught off guard a few months ago when the Philippine consulate here began holding back worker approvals.
Basically, the consulate general was given instructions not to sign off on the authentication of the employment contract, and thus it was being stuck there.
The consulate was enforcing a Philippine government regulation that requires employers to provide overseas Filipino workers with free room and board. De La Sola says while it's been on the books, it's never been enforced here. He says the governor sent her senior economic advisor, Carl Gutierrez, to Manila to set a meeting with the Philippine Labor Secretary and the head of the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, a powerful agency that's charged with overseeing Filipinos abroad and whose remittances account for more than 10% of the economy. De La Sola says they were able to convince them that Guam's higher salaries more than offset the room and board requirement.
Our H2 workers make an average of $15.64 an hour, which is the prevailing wage. And that wage is significantly higher than what is given the workers in the Philippines. So that is what I said is our offsetting benefit. And if this provision isn't removed, that it effectively make the Philippine H2 non-competitive, and that the contractors would most likely go to different countries.
He expects Manila will give the local consulate authorization this week to sign off on pending worker contracts as they work on a formal country exemption.
And that would put a permanent fix in place so that if there's change of administrations down the road, that this subject won't pop up and become an issue again.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
In other news, on Sunday, an officer from the Dedito precinct pulled over a white Toyota Corolla after noticing the driver was not wearing a seatbelt. The driver then informed the officer that he did not have a valid driver's license, and he said his name was Mark Gannon. Court documents state that the officer observed a knife in the console and requested the driver exit the vehicle. The officer saw a glass pipe near the transmission lever, which had a brown residue. Upon searching the driver, the officer recovered from his waistband a small plastic baggie containing more residue. A second baggie containing crystal residue was also recovered with a glass pipe. All yielded a presumptive positive result for methamphetamine. A 30-year-old Matthew Thogonmar admitted that he had traded marijuana for methamphetamine and that the original name he gave to the officer was false. He was charged with illegal possession of a Schedule II controlled substance as a third-degree felony. A 38-year-old man was arrested after allegedly strangling a woman in front of a child. On August 25th, police responded to a call in Jotnia where the victim said Alfred Jordan Apatang Camacho choked her at a residence. The victim said she went to the store with her child and came back to the residence where both doors were locked. The victim texted Camacho to let her in, but he refused. When the victim climbed in through a kitchen window, Camacho allegedly used both hands to choke her, dragging her into the living room. That's when the child yelled for the man to stop. Court documents state the victim tried to escape, but Camacho slammed the door and choked her again, even pushing her head into a wall. Camacho was charged with family violence, strangulation, and assault. Well, Michael John Cepeda Camacho was arrested after allegedly slapping and kicking a woman in Chalampago. The alleged incident occurred on August 21st. The victim telling police she had been arguing with Camacho through the morning and continued in the afternoon when he allegedly slapped her, which caused her to fall on a bed. Camacho then allegedly held the victim down and told her not to leave. When the victim tried to leave, he allegedly kicked her in the chest, causing her to fall again. Camacho was charged with family violence as a misdemeanor. Well, sports is next. Double D on the way. Keep it right here.
Make every day a plus.
Get ready, Guam! For the Jamaican Reggae Explosion. Storehouse Productions, along with Game Time Inc., presents Hope Slam 2019, a benefit concert to promote suicide awareness and prevention at the Governor Joseph Flores Memorial Park on September 21st, 2019. Live from Jamaica, we got Kevin Downswell, Jermaine Edwards, Gotti Gotti, Adrian Cunningham, and Terry Ann Johnson. We'll have local performers to get the vibe started, and food vendors will be on site. This is a family-friendly event. Advance tickets are $15 for adults and $5 for kids. Tickets available at Anderson ITT, Navy MWR, 76 Circle K in Agate, EPOW Road, and Dedito, or purchase online at Eventbrite.com. Gates open at 5:30 p.m. Hope Slam 2019, slamming the door to suicide. Special thanks to all of our sponsors.
Now there's a technology that's lighting the way to a new mortgage for people all across Guam. Introducing Simplify Mortgage by Bank of Hawaii, Hawaii's leading lender. Simplify Mortgage by Bank of Hawaii lets you apply for a home loan anytime from any device, making the mortgage and refi process faster and easier. Or work hand in hand with one of our residential loan experts. So put the power of choice and control in your hands. Simplify Mortgage by Bank of Hawaii. Welcome to tomorrow.
KUAM Sports is presented by Triple J.
What's up, Guam? Dave Delgado here for KUAM Sports. Thanks for watching. Footage from Glorified Sparring 4 coming right up. But first off, highlights from the Guam National Youth Football Federation between the Raiders and Eagles. Check it out. Raiders with first possession to get the game underway. Toss left to the running back who makes a cut and breaks a couple of tackles on his way into the end zone for the touchdown. Bamba gets to the outside and blows by the defense for the 55-yard score. Raiders jump out to a 12-0 lead in the first couple of minutes into the game. The defense disrupting the snap and forces the fumble. Cornerback Ethan Guerrero scoops up the loose ball and takes it the opposite way for the score. He finished the game with 2 touchdowns. Raiders pick up the win 32-0 in the Mega Division. Eagles took the Munha game 15-6. Raiders won the Matua game 12-6. The Angels take 2 out of 3 games against the Packers. Packers won the Munha game 13-0. Angels won the Mega Division game 26-0 and also won the Matua matchup 24-6. Broncos beat the Steelers 28-6 in the Munha game. Steelers took the Mega Division 13-6. They also won the Matua game 6-0. Glorified Sparring 4 was held at Steel Athletics in Tamuning. 44 competitors put themselves to the test in front of a packed house. Fighters stepped into the cage for the fight card that featured boxing bouts, MMA fights, no-gi jiu-jitsu, and kickboxing. There were vendors on site and food sold courtesy of Matacos. Gym owner J.J. Ambrose says the event started off as a way for his fighters to get experience in the cage before taking off for international competition and for a way to give back to the community by donating to nonprofit organizations. Donations were accepted at the door with proceeds going to the Pacific War Museum. A total of $1,000 was collected by spectators in attendance. Competitors represented Carlson Gracie Guam, Integrated Martial Arts, Steel Athletics, and Guam Muay Thai. With the success, popularity, and more fighters interested in putting their training to use, Ambrose has already lined up another event scheduled for October. Make sure to follow Steel Athletics on Instagram to stay updated on the Glorified Sparring events. Turning over to some soccer news, working to gain full membership into the Guam Football Association for the Napa Rovers FC was one of Peter Wall's final duties for the club as president before passing the torch to new incoming president Joel Sablon, and years of persistence paid off. At the GFA Extraordinary Congress, the Rovers received 10 out of a possible 11 votes to achieve full GFA membership status during the GFA Extraordinary Congress held at the Guam Football Association National Training Center Lecture Hall. The club will now be afforded full club privileges, including a voting right within the GFA.